Now we are going to discuss this further with Sami Hamdi. He is the Managing Director of the International Interest and joins us now live from London. Sami, thank you very much for joining us. Now, this was expected to happen. The elections were expected to be postponed, correct?
I think it's important to remember that for months now, all of the Libyan factions have been trying to get these elections delayed. They've been trying to get these elections essentially cancelled. Remember that the Libyan factions were dragged to the political process, kicking and screaming, and the only reason they sat down was because Turkey's intervention established a military equilibrium that made the possibility of a military solution impossible. And therefore, what we've seen over the period of the past year is constant attempts by the Libyan factions to get these elections delayed, and they've succeeded. It's important to remember that only Washington wanted these elections to take place on the basis that these elections might create a unified political authority and therefore accelerate the political process that Washington would use to push out Russia and contain Turkey. That has emphatically failed, and now we have this awkward situation where a parallel political process has begun in the east, led by Khalifa Haftar. We saw Bashagha participate, we saw Maitig participate, we saw Arif Naif participate, other presidential candidates meet with Haftar in Benghazi as they start their own political process. And we saw Stephanie Williams quickly scramble to Tripoli to try to rescue the elections, and now she's trying to rescue a political track. And now the talk now is what to do now with this government that Abdul Hamid al-Dbeiba leads, in that this government, its term is supposed to end. The House of Representatives, which is for now the recognized parliamentary authority in the East, will not give an extension to this government. And now what's taking place is backdoor negotiations over dividing the portfolios to try to establish a renewed political consensus. And it's in this context that militias are now moving and flexing their arms and flexing
Sami, but I do want to focus on the
power.
elections for a second here. Now, one of the primary concerns at this point is whether or not Libya is going to hold elections or not. They have been postponed to January. What's the guarantee they won't be postponed again?
I don't think elections will take place anytime soon. And I think that the emphasis on the elections detracts from the realities of Libya. The problem in Libya is not elections. Libya had elections in 2014. The problem with those elections was, one, the proliferation of militias made sure that there wasn't a great turnout. And two, the militias rejected the results of those elections, and the militias in Tripoli seized the airport, seized the capital, kicked out the House of Representatives, and essentially created this east and west divide, albeit Haftar had already begun his military campaign in the east. The issue is that without a political consensus or constitutional framework, or even an agreement that elections are a good thing, the reality is you could have them tomorrow and nobody will recognize the results and will simply have war. And this is why, for many, it's a relief that the elections have not taken place, because it at least ensures that there is a status quo in which the militias don't have the power to really defeat one another and are forced at least to continue talking and try to achieve that political consensus. And this is why I think that while elections sounds nice and it sounds great, the reality is that it actually offered a door to return to conflict far more than it offered a door to a political consensus. So I think the direct answer to your question is the elections have been delayed, but they've been delayed indefinitely. And I think that January 24th is a very ambitious timeline. I don't think the elections will take place on that time, nor will they take place in the near future.
All right, Sami Hamdi, thank you very much for talking to us.